All right, so as promised, knowledge versus ignorance. So, what is knowledge and what's ignorance? We have touched a little bit about what knowledge really means and how ignorance is counter to that. But today, we're going to touch a deep thought process of knowledge and ignorance and how it really affects our life on a daily basis, right? So, knowledge, most people confuse knowledge by reading a text or what you hear or what it is taught to you. But knowledge is far from that. Knowledge isn't something that you just hear and interpret it by itself. Knowledge is vast in a sense that you would need to actually go deeper into the subject of finding the truth in the information that is passed down to you. So, how do you actually go on and build your true knowledge? So, true knowledge is built on a system of fundamentals called forms. Sorry. So, you would need to build your knowledge on forms, and some of the forms could be, and those are fundamentals. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you want to learn about a molecule of a protein cell animal. In order to understand that cell, you would first study protein. In order to understand the protein, you would first study about different constitution of that protein, and then you would further down the line you would try to break down that constitution, and you would study about different elements, and then further you would study about electron, protons, and all those. So you can kind of think of electrons, protons, and neutrons as the fundamental of this planet, because that's from which the planet is built upon, although there's other things as well, right? But the idea is similar to that. We would need to build our knowledge system on similar fundamentals, like instead of just believing in the meaning of courage or different type of virtue, you would need to build these virtues on true knowledge. And in order to acquire that true knowledge, you will need to study that fundamentals. And that study doesn't mean a bookish read or analyzations, but it means you will need to go out and question different social norms, because these are social terms. These aren't written somewhere. And then you would build your knowledge based on true facts, unbiased of any other fluctuations or anything. And this will allow you to have a concrete knowledge. And how is it going to benefit you? So first thing first, once you have a true knowledge, you wouldn't be easily swayed away. Most of the time, most people are carried away with whatever nonsense they see on TV or in public. They are easily swayed away because they don't actually look inside and interpret whatever they are seeing, interpret the information that they are being fed to, and they don't try to analyze it based on their true fundamental knowledge that they have acquired from their experiences. So once you start to understand that you are able to build your knowledge on those fundamentals, and you have a good understanding of what each of these terms really mean, you wouldn't just throw it out randomly. Most of the time, when you would hear someone argue, they will throw out random words. They actually don't believe deeply in those statements or words. So let's say you argue with someone and someone says, "Oh, I'm acting courageous." Are you acting courageous, or are you just trying to prove your point? There's a difference in that. And most of the time it's the second one. They don't actually are acting in accordance to their courage. They are more so acting in accordance of social not justification, social acceptance. They are doing it for social acceptance. They want to be accepted in the social realm, so they do something. but they are not doing it because they are courageous, quote unquote. But so once you truly fundamentally understand the knowledge, and you'd be like, okay, you know what, in this situation I don't care about the outcome. I'm acting in accordance to my virtue, I'm acting in accordance to my courage, I'm being generous, I'm being humble, and all these like different type of virtues. And you would need to find a nice balance in that regard. So that is the deep rooted info about knowledge. How does ignorance play in this social realm? So basically, ignorance is opposite of knowledge, or they go hand in hand. Ignorance is a state of not knowing, and there are two type of ways you could be ignorant. Either you haven't been familiarized with the knowledge, or you don't want to accept that knowledge. There's two type of ignorance. You need to identify which one of those are you going to fit in. So the first one is that you have never actually seen courage. You haven't seen courage, and you don't know how, then how are you going to show courage if you haven't seen it, or if you're not familiar with the essence of courage, which goes back to you can only acquire essence once you have the true knowledge. Going back to this point, so you would be able to have that ignorant state because you haven't been able to, or you have never had the opportunity to show that or learn what actually courage means. And the second one is you don't want to because you don't know, like you are in a state where you disregard knowledge, and that is way worse than the first stage. Although both of them are equally immoral, but the second one is have some deep rooted issues which you will face further down the line. Let me give you an example. There's really beautiful example that I had. I think I was reading this Plato. So in the Plato, it said there was this guy, or there was this prisoners. They were facing, some of the people might have heard this story, but I'm quickly gonna share this so that it's gonna give you a broader understanding of knowledge and ignorance. So these prisoners were sitting next to the wall, and they have, for their entire life, they've been facing the wall. Imagine there's a wall, and they've been facing the wall throughout their life. And the only thing on the wall they can see is the shadows of people passing by, of donkeys, and all different things happening, and they are only able to see the shadow. Now, one day a prisoner is released, and the prisoner doesn't really want to do anything else because that's his life. He's been only able to get the knowledge from that screen, quote unquote, because it's a wall. So that prisoner is only, if that's his reality of life. So after a while, he turns back, and there's a fire lit that is causing that. Initially, he gets blinded by that fire. He is blinded by the fire, and after some time, he adjusts to that the glow and everything, and then he understands. Okay, the shadows on this wall was nothing but a cause of this fire being lit and the people passing by. Then he understands, okay, there's more to the life than I was just seeing on the wall. Further, and since the prisoners were enslaved in the cave, when they were released, he started moving. He went outside the cave. Initially, he was a bit reluctant to it, but then he started moving out of the cave. When he moved out of the cave, he saw sunlight, and he was again blinded by the light. And it took him several attempts, or after some time, he was able to adjust to the light. And then he saw all these plants and all these vegetations, and then he understood, okay. And then he went to a lake and saw the reflection of the sun. Initially, he was again blinded by the light, but then he got adjusted. And when he saw the reflection of the sun in the water, he understood that is what is causing the light to be out there, and he's able to see all these beautiful things. Now, there might be some things that are ups and down in the Plato that I just told, that I read, but the core point of it was that you would consider your reality to be knowledge because you are not familiar with outside world, or you haven't been enlightened by the outside world. And never be in a state of reluctancy, never be in a state where you choose to not go out in a light because you are afraid to be blinded by it. You might get blinded by the light initially, but after several times, once you adjust to the saturation or exposure of the light, you would understand, okay, this is nothing but beautiful life that was needed me to adjust to. And that is really crucial for you to get in the state of growing. You would need to get in that stage of growing, and every opportunity that comes along, even though that you think that you have all the knowledge in this world, you would consider seeking more, because knowledge is a constant chase of more. You would want more because you would consider yourself to be a wise person if you always try to chase knowledge. There's always more to learn, there's always more to improve, there are always some more things to do. Whenever you try to sit back and relax, that's when you are killing yourself. You are killing yourself by ignorance. You are not allowing yourself to grow, and that is the most harmful thing that you can do to yourself. So that is the broad concept of knowledge and ignorance. In simple words, knowledge is something that you seek to build your fundamental truths, and then ignorance is something that you resist to because you are in a state of comfort, and ignorance will destruct your virtues, because the most common reason people nowadays don't want to engage in the knowledge is because they are not courageous enough. They are not courageous enough to look in the light. They are not courageous enough to take that step. And the reason being, again, they are being in the state of ignorance. Oh, I know this. Oh, I have this knowledge, and I won't be able to do that because I haven't done that. If you do it, you will seek more knowledge towards it. You might think that you have all the knowledge because you have read some books on entrepreneurship, on public speaking, and all these different type of realms. You've read these books and all of a sudden you are really smart and really knowledgeable. No, the knowledge is what you would put in practice and actually acquire from that practice. It's not something that you just read and interpret it inside. It's more so of the act of how you acquire it, the act of how you do it. Knowledge can only be acquired by practice or by actually doing something. Socrates, the only way he acquired knowledge was questioning people. He questioned every single person. He didn't read a book, he didn't read pre-Socratic books. Maybe, yeah, he did, but he didn't rely on those facts. He went out and he said, okay, why do you think this thing is pious? Why do you think this is truth? So he went out and asked questions. He wanted to know more. He had that drive. If people living thousands of years had more drive, then people today, what's wrong? Because if they can ask all these people, why can't we? We can ask these people, we can acquire more knowledge, we can be we can do more to humanity together than anyone. So that's kind of what my take on it is. My take on it is that knowledge is what you would need to seek, and ignorance is what you need to resist to. All right, and use this to your advantage. Use this, whatever you are doing, whatever your dreams are, use this perspective in place and say, even if there's some people that have all the things they seek for, you would still want to grow further, right? If you think you have all the knowledge, you would want more. And even if you think somebody doesn't have as much knowledge as you, maybe they have maybe they didn't know of a topic that you don't really know. So there would be still a room for growth and room for acquiring further knowledge. All right, I'm gonna cut this one here, and it was just off script, just to kind of talk a little bit about knowledge and ignorance. I hope you liked it. I hope you act upon it and then grow along.